She takes her opportunity. Alexandra Eala, she reeled off the opening set in double quick time. Fair play, Magdalena Frech. She came back, took that second set 6-3.
There is a moment in every great sports story where the background finally catches up to the headline, where the name you've been hearing suddenly makes complete sense. And for Alexandra Eala, that moment arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in Rome, on one of the most historic courts in all of tennis, surrounded by 18 marble statues that have been watching champions come and go for nearly a century. But before we get there, before we talk about Rome and clay and redemption, you need to understand something about a boy from a small town in Spain who grew up hitting tennis balls against a wall in brutal Mediterranean heat, who was told early on that his game was too unorthodox to succeed at the highest level, who went on to win the French Open 14 times, who turned a small island into the most respected tennis development facility on the planet, and who, somewhere in the middle of his retirement, chose a 20-year-old girl from Quezon City as the person he most wanted to share a court with when he picked up a racket again for the first time in months. That boy was Rafael Nadal. That girl is Alex. And what happened between them, what has been quietly building for 8 years in the red clay courts of Mallorca, came flooding to the surface in Rome in a way that the entire tennis world is still trying to process. So let us slow down. Let us actually tell this story the right way, because it deserves every minute of your attention. The Italian Open is not just any tournament. The Foro Italico Sports Complex in Rome is a cathedral. The Pietrangeli Court, where Alex played her first round match, sits inside a structure that drips with tennis history, every corner of it carrying the weight of names like Borg and Connors and later Federer and Nadal himself, a man who won this tournament 9 times. When you walk onto that court, you are not just playing tennis. You are stepping into something that has been accumulating meaning for nearly 100 years. And the marble statues ringing the court are not decoration. They are witnesses. Alex walked onto that court as a 20-year-old ranked 42nd in the world, coming off one of the roughest stretches of her young career. 3 consecutive clay court losses across Linz, Stuttgart, and Madrid. In Madrid, she had been bageled by Mira Andreeva. 6-0, no answers, nothing working, the kind of result that makes headlines for all the wrong reasons and follows a player around for weeks. Coming into Rome, the narrative around her European clay swing was not kind. Critics were pointing to patterns. Journalists were raising questions. And the players on tour, the ones who study each other the way chess grandmasters study openings, were watching closely to see whether Alex would show up in Italy or disappear under the weight of expectation. Her first-round opponent was Magdalena Frech of Poland, 28 years old, a former top 20 player whose career high ranking of 22 came just 2 years ago, a woman who had beaten Emma Navarro and Mira Andreeva, both top 10 opponents at various points in her career. This was not a soft draw. Frech is the kind of player who does not panic, who has been in enough tough spots to know how to fight, and who, going into Rome herself, had a point to prove after 4 consecutive first-round losses. On paper, this match had all the ingredients for another difficult afternoon for Alex. And then the first set began, and something completely different happened. Frech never got started. Alex broke serve early and held with complete authority. She broke again, held again, broke a third time, and closed the set with another hold that was more statement than tennis. 6-0. A bagel. 35 minutes of total, ruthless, systematic clay court tennis from a player who 3 weeks earlier had looked lost on the same surface. The Pietrangeli crowd, which had seen a lot of tennis over the decades, watched with a kind of stunned quiet as a former top 20 veteran got completely outplayed without managing to string together a single game. And for anyone who has been following Alex closely, anyone who has watched her development over the past 2 years, that first set felt like a signal. It felt like something was different. But then came the second set, and the story got complicated again, because that is how European clay works, that is how veterans survive. And that is exactly what Frech did. She went back to her chair after losing the first set, and she made adjustments. She attacked Alex's second serve more aggressively. She changed her return position. She started competing with the gritty, measured desperation of a player who knows her ranking depends on every point she earns. The second set tilted toward Frech, 6-3, and just like that, the match was even, 1 set apiece. And here is the thing about that moment. Here is the question that was being asked in real time by everyone watching, every coach on the WTA Tour monitoring the scoreline on their phone, every commentator pulling up her match history. Because this was not the first time Alex had been in this position. She lost from 5-1 up in Linz against Ostapenko. She had been in commanding situations before and not closed them. The question was not whether she could win tennis matches. The question was whether she could manage the moment when a match turned against her and she had to reach into something deeper than talent to get through. The third set answered that question. And the answer was no, she does not fold. Not anymore. Not since Mallorca, not since the week she spent at the Rafa Nadal Academy after the Madrid loss, working with the coaching staff that built the greatest clay court player who ever lived. She went back onto that court for the third set, and she was calm, not numb, not distant, but present in the way athletes are when they trust their preparation completely. She broke serve early in the third, held her own serve, climbed the scoreboard, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3. Frech kept pushing, kept competing, kept making it hard, because that is what experienced players do, and that is what clay surfaces demand. Both players faced breakpoints. Both players saved them. The tension built with every game until Alex was serving for the match at 5-4, and you could feel the weight of the moment pressing down from every direction. The history of the clay season, the Madrid memory, the months of questions, all of it arriving at once in a single service game on the most beautiful court in Italian tennis. She held. She closed it out. 6-3 in the third. The handshake at the net. The clay court drought for tournaments, 12 weeks, all of it over. And then came the statistic that should make every coaching team in professional tennis sit up and pay very close attention. Alex's second serve win percentage in that match was 68%. 68, higher than her first serve conversion rate of 56%. Higher than Frech's first serve percentage, the same second serve that had been catastrophically broken down in Linz, the same shot that produced a 0% win rate against Ostapenko on outdoor clay just 3 weeks before Rome, had become the foundation of her game on Pietrangeli. That number does not happen by accident. That number is the direct result of what took place in Mallorca during the week between Madrid and Rome, when Alex went back to the academy after the Andreeva loss, when the coaching staff sat with her and identified exactly what was breaking down technically, when they prescribed a solution and drilled it into muscle memory over 7 days of focused, deliberate, high-intensity work. 6 breaks of serve from 12 breakpoint opportunities. Half of every chance she earned in that match, she converted. Frech converted 3 of 9. Total points, 157 to Alex's favor. Receiving points, 36 to 34. Every meaningful category in clay court tennis tilted in Alex's direction by margins that confirm this was not a close match decided by luck. It was a dominant performance by a player who had done the work, absorbed the corrections, and arrived in Rome ready to execute. Now we have to talk about the Nadal connection properly, because this is where the story stops being a tennis result and starts being something else entirely. Alex first walked through the gates of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca in 2018. She was 12 years old. She had just won the prestigious Petit as junior tournament in France, one of the most celebrated under-14 events in European tennis, and the academy reached out to her family with a scholarship offer. Her parents made the decision that every great sports family eventually faces, the decision to send their child far from home in pursuit of something that most people will tell you is impossible. Alex and her brother Michael traveled to Spain together. She lived at the academy. She trained on those red clay courts every single day. She absorbed the philosophy that Tony Nadal, Rafael's uncle and the man directly responsible for building the greatest clay court game in the history of professional tennis, had been refining for decades. Every morning she woke up in Mallorca. She was breathing in the same air, running on the same courts, receiving instruction from the same coaches who turned a left-handed boy from a small Spanish town into a 14-time Roland Garros champion. She graduated from the academic program there in 2023 and continued working at the facility as a professional. The red clay of Mallorca was not just her training ground. It was her home. It was her education. It was the place that shaped not just her game, but her understanding of what tennis demands from a player mentally, emotionally, and physically. And the relationship between her and Nadal himself is not just symbolic. It is not a marketing arrangement or an academy branding exercise. It is personal in a way that professional tennis mentorships rarely are. When Alex reached the Miami Open semifinals in March 2025, becoming the first Filipino player in history to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, defeating Ostapenko and Keys and Svitolina along the way at just 19 years old, Nadal posted publicly. He said they were extremely proud of her. He said it was an incredible tournament. He told her to keep dreaming. After her first WTA Tour-level victory, he congratulated her by name, acknowledged what it meant for the Philippines, and made clear that he was paying attention to every step of her progress. After every meaningful win, there has been a public acknowledgement from Nadal. The pattern is not coincidence. It is the pattern of a mentor who is invested in a student's development at the deepest level. And then came November 2025, exactly 1 year after his retirement, when Nadal walked back onto a practice court at his academy for the first time in months. The player he chose to hit with that day was Alex, the 22-time Grand Slam champion. In one of the most emotionally loaded moments of his post-playing life, picked his Filipina student as the person he wanted beside him when he felt ready to touch a racket again. Alex described it afterward with the kind of reverence you only hear when someone is trying to find language for something that genuinely moved them. She said it was something young players only dream about. She said he gave her tips on her forehand, small pieces of technical advice that she was taking in with everything she had. She said the memory would last forever. That is not a casual hitting session between a famous person and a junior player at his facility. That is a master choosing a student. That is a teacher doing one of the most generous things a retired champion can do, which is transferring knowledge to someone who will carry it forward long after he is gone from the sport. Mariel Nadal, Rafael's sister, and a key figure at the academy, has spoken about Alex with genuine warmth. She called her an inspiration for boys and girls in the Philippines. She said it is amazing what Alex is doing, that she is an incredible girl, very humble, and that the affection people around the world have for her is beautiful to witness. And Tony Nadal, the man who built Rafael's clay court foundation from the ground up, the coach who is arguably the most respected clay court developer in the history of the sport, delivered one of the most consequential quotes about Alex that anyone has ever said. He said, "Once she gets her game right, she could be among the best in the world." Read that again slowly. Among the best in the world. From Tony Nadal, about a Filipina player. This is the man who watched Rafael win French Open after French Open for 2 decades, and he looked at Alex and said those words with the calm certainty of someone who has been evaluating tennis talent for his entire adult life. And if that is not enough, Mats Wilander, the 7-time Grand Slam champion, and one of the most respected tennis minds alive, watched Alex play and said she has hands given by God. Watch what she did on Pietrangeli today. And those words stop sounding like flattery and start sounding like a diagnosis. Now we move to what comes next, because the Italian Open does not stop, the draw keeps moving. And Alex has just arrived in the round of 64 with momentum she has not had at any point in this clay swing. Her next opponent is Wang Xinyu of China. The same Wang Xinyu who beat her in Auckland in January in 3 sets, a match Alex led and could not close. 4 months have passed since that loss. Alex has been carrying that result around through Linz and Stuttgart and Madrid and now Rome. And the rematch is here, arriving at exactly the right time, against exactly the right player, after exactly the kind of win that reminds you what you are actually capable of. The player who lost to Wang in Auckland is not the player who walked off Pietrangeli against Frech. The second serve has been rebuilt. The mental framework has been reinforced. The clay has been conquered once already this week, which means the confidence is real and not manufactured. Beyond Wang, the draw holds Elena Rybakina, the world number 2 and reigning Australian Open champion. And after that, it opens up in directions that are impossible to predict. But the Wang match is the next checkpoint. And every match Alex plays between now and the start of Roland Garros in 12 days is being watched from Mallorca with the same investment and focus that the coaching staff has brought to her development for 8 years. Roland Garros begins on May 18th, 12 days away. The French Open, the tournament that made the Nadal name legendary. The event where his philosophy was proven correct on the most public stage in the sport, is the ultimate destination of this entire clay season. Every win between Rome and Paris is preparation. Every hold of serve, every third set, every moment of staying calm when things turn difficult is currency being deposited into the account that gets withdrawn when the clay of Roland Garros is under her feet. Alex herself has explained in her own words what she has learned most from being around Nadal. She said the thing she has taken from him above everything else is his ability to suffer, not just to endure, but to want to go through the hard moments, to find something in the difficulty rather than running from it. She said it is unmatched in him, that it is something she has been trying to absorb and make her own. And when the second set went to Frech today, when the momentum reversed, and the match became uncomfortable and the questions from earlier in the clay season came rushing back, she suffered, and she did not collapse. She walked back out for the third set, and she delivered. That is not something you learn from a coaching manual. That is something you absorb from proximity to a person who embodies it completely, which is exactly what 8 years inside that academy has given her. Today in Rome, on Pietrangeli, surrounded by those marble statues, the 8-year project produced its most public proof of concept. The first set showed the firepower. The second set provided the test. The third set showed the answer. Every phase of this match validated something different about the infrastructure built into her game by the most prestigious coaching environment in the sport. The serve +1 patterns, the defensive resets, the break point composure, the return depth, the mental toughness when the match turned. Every single principle that the Nadal Academy teaches appeared on that court today in a way that the coaches watching back in Mallorca would have recognized immediately. This is what the inheritance of a clay court philosophy looks like when it finally clicks in a tournament match. This is what 8 years of relentless work at the most decorated tennis institution on the planet produces when the student steps onto the biggest stage and executes. And somewhere on the island of Mallorca, Rafael Nadal, 50 years old, retired from professional tennis, put down his phone after watching the live stream and felt something that only coaches and mentors and teachers understand, the particular satisfaction that comes not from winning yourself, but from watching someone you helped build do something that carries your fingerprints forward into the future. The King of Clay watched his student carry his philosophy onto one of the most historic courts in Italian tennis and prove that everything he spent 2 decades building in Mallorca was transferable, was real, and was just getting started. The Wang rematch is coming. Paris is 12 days away. The army mobilizes tonight.